Hi, I'm Dre. I'm your mindset coach and mentor of change, and I want to welcome you to our October workshop where we're going to focus this entire month on the fearless mindset. In particular, we look to answer the question, what does fear look like in your organization? This organization could be something that you do that you're passionate about, like a nonprofit or some sort of a philanthropy cause. It could be your own company, or it could be something or it could be somewhere that you work currently. Whatever this organization is, we are going to discuss what does fear look like in it. And as we tackle one aspect of fear each week, we're going to focus in this first week on your sales and outreach. Just whoever's in charge of getting the word out and getting people excited about your product and your program. We're going to find that fear looks differently depending on who we're talking about and what we're trying to accomplish. And so we really just want to make sure that we understand it completely, because if you're not achieving the goals that you set for your organization, most likely you're going to find that fear is the culprit. So as we dive into what it looks like in your sales and outreach, we're going to talk about 5 specific characteristics that you will often find within an organization that has fear within their sales and outreach. First and foremost, we're going to start with the avoiding the word no at all costs. Now, this could be so difficult for people to deal with, the fear of rejection, that they don't even get to the point of saying, this is why I called the meeting, this is what we're doing in our company, and this is why we want you to donate your time, your resources, or your money. Instead, what they do is they let the client dictate the conversation because they're uncomfortable with the idea of being told no, just that overall fear of rejection. You also find that some companies have difficulty saying no to the customer because they're worried about being rejected. So I've been a part of a lot of companies, and you'll find that sales is very price sensitive. And it has a little bit to do with the fear that they have of losing the customer, but it has a lot to do with the doubt they have of the value of the product. If you really do see your product as something that's separate and kind of stands on its own, it is much easier for you to be comfortable with the idea that we're going to raise this rate or we're going to charge a premium for this. But whenever you have doubt and you think, well, our product isn't that much different than anyone else's, we really don't have a leg to stand on, then it becomes very difficult for that salesperson, that outreach person, to dictate whatever the conversation is, to encourage and to really make sure the person understands the value that they're going to create. I find that the best way to just really get past that overall that fear and that apprehension that has to do with dealing with the word no is, I often think of the panhandlers. And if you've ever seen someone standing on the side of the road with a sign, they get told no like thousands of times a day. But you know what? They get told yes enough that they're able to stay alive. In some cases, if you've seen some of those investigative journalist reports, they end up making $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 a year depending on the city and how busy that intersection is. And if they don't have a product and they're able to generate this income, surely you and I, who have a product or we have something we're passionate about or we have a cause that we really want to help grow, surely if we talk to enough people, we can get those yeses. And we often end up looking at things in the sense that, well, I don't like the idea of being rejected 9 out of 10 times. And I don't know many people that do either, but I do know that getting a yes 1 out of 10 times means that you can put a specific plan in place to accomplish whatever goals you have set for yourself. And so instead of you looking at it as I'm being told no 9 out of 10 times, look at it as I only have to talk to 100 people to get 10 yeses. I only have to talk to 500 people to get 50 yeses, right? We really want to say, how many yeses do I need to get? How much money do I need to generate? How much attention do I need to have? And then you make the plan and you kind of go from there. Just remember, there is someone out there with no product talking to enough people that they are able to generate what they need to make a living. And you can do the same within your organization for your cause, for the interest that you're trying to build. It reminds me of a story that my parents often told me when I was growing up and playing baseball, that you only have to hit the ball 3 out of 10 times to be a Hall of Famer. And what that means is you could get it wrong 7 out of 10 times. And you will still go into the Hall of Fame. What that means is if you do 2 out of 10, you're probably an above average player. And you can stay in the league for 10, 15 years and make a great living and kind of make a name for yourself. Right, just to be at the top echelon of baseball, you only need to be able to succeed 3 out of 10 times. And often we are looking at things a little bit I'd say unrealistic, where we want to be able to hit the ball 7, 8, 9 out of 10 times. Dare I say 10 out of 10 times in some of your instances, where that's just not realistic. You're setting yourself up for failure. But instead, if you're able to just simply say, you know what? If I get 2 out of 10, if I get 3 out of 10, if I get 1 out of 10, I'm moving towards the direction I want to be. And we'll go over some additional tips later on in this video where we'll talk about improving whatever that number is when you first start out. Because even though it may start at 1 out of 10, and that's why a lot of people often quit, you will find that if you keep going, you're going to get better. Just it's a natural thing, and you're going to see that that conversion rate increases as well. Number 2 is you're going to find that when you have difficulty achieving your goals as an organization, sales and outreach may have a negative opinion, a false belief about salespeople. And maybe it was something that they watched on TV, or maybe it was an experience they had where they went to buy a car and the person was so aggressive, so overbearing that it really set them the wrong way. Where they're like, I'll never come to this dealership ever again. Or maybe when they were kids and they were hanging out with their parents and their parents would have phone calls ringing and it would be like, man, that really seems like you're really disturbing our peaceful time. And whatever it is, you find that people, when they think of sales, they really don't want to come off as aggressive. They don't want to come off as pushy, and they don't want to come off as sleazy. And these are all great things. But the question becomes, is being passionate about something, knowing that you can improve someone's life or knowing that your cause can improve lots of lives if you just are able to get the word out, are you being sleazy by being passionate, by being aggressive in the sense that you are sharing the information that you have? And I would say no, because a lot of us, or at least all of us, have a little bit of procrastination in us. And what I mean is we have things that we want to do. All of us have things we want to do, but all of us also are falling short of all the goals that we set for ourselves. And if we have something that we want to do, that we know we want to do and we're passionate about, and we're still not doing it, then if you are not aggressive in the sense that you are providing the value, that you are letting them know that how it's going to drastically improve their life, then there's a high likelihood that they may want what you're speaking of, but they're just not going to do anything about it. And you find that in lots of organizations, when you're dealing with someone who has a negative belief, a negative perception about the salespeople, it is very difficult for them to convey how important the product is. Where they're very timid and passive and they never really get around to the meat and potatoes of the product, how this is going to improve their life. And I know for me personally, as far as juggling that balance, there was one time where I had a job and I had it for all of 2 weeks. And I was working at this credit financial firm where what they were doing is people would call in, and if they had a large amount of credit card debt, we would negotiate with the creditors to lower that overall repayment plan. And we would save them thousands of dollars where they would pay something back pennies on the dollar. And I was very passionate about the value that we were providing because I saw it firsthand. We only were getting paid if the person was able to save money. Now, I did understand later on that it was something that they could do themselves, but if you just had a little bit of discomfort, then we were there for you. And at least that's the way I looked at it. And what ended up happening is I had one person on the phone with me, and she was kind of an older lady, and I explained to her all the value of the benefits and how we would help her, but she just wasn't 100% sure about it. And so I ended up telling her, you know what, just sleep on it. Whenever I have a big decision that I'm not comfortable with, I just sleep on it. And then when I wake up, I feel a lot better about the decision either direction. And if you ever worked in those places where you talk to a lot of people on the phone, they get recorded. So my director ended up listening to that call, and then he called me in kind of the next day, and he was just like, hey, tell me about this call. You had someone, you obviously had a lot of value, we could really do a lot of good things for her, and you told her that she could sleep on it. And I told him, you know what, I just try to treat people the way that I would want my parents to be treated. And I knew that she was uncomfortable with the decision. I just didn't want to pressure her into it. And he was looking at me, and I was like, you know, in the Bible where it says that it's very difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, I was like, it really doesn't have to do with the fact that God doesn't want you to be rich, or at least the fact that he doesn't care if you're rich. It has to do with how you went about gaining your wealth. And I was like, and I just don't want to do it the wrong way. And he looked at me as if he appreciated what I said, and then he just simply said, you know what, I don't think this job is for you. And I said, I don't think it's for me either, because of the way that conversation went. And that's okay. That's just what happens sometimes. But it was one of those things where I knew what the balance was for me between making sure I understood the value that I was able to provide, but also understanding that the customer, if they don't see it, they don't see it. And you don't want to go beyond whatever your comfort zone is. But I am telling you that you want to make sure your comfort zone is not so small that you can't even share what it is that you want to do to help them or the cause that you want to help other people. And so I just want you to kind of keep that in mind when you're really trying to gain that balance. Number 3 is you don't like cold calling or door knocking. And I've been a part of congregations where nobody liked door knocking. Everybody said it didn't work. And the same with cold calling. But the weird thing about both of those is it really does work. Because you go back to tip number 1, it's a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more likely you're going to hear yes. And even if you feel you're only going to hear yes like 1 or 10% of the time, all that means is that you have to talk to that many more people. And I'll give you 2 great examples of companies that I think do it a great way. So Edward Jones Financial Advisors, you've probably had one of them knock on your door at least once in your life. And they simply say, you know what, I live in your neighborhood, I'm working out of this office, and if you have any financial goals you want to achieve, I would love to help you make them. And that's it. No pressure, nothing extra. If you want to talk to them, they'll talk to you as long as you want. They'll schedule an appointment. And if you're done, then that's great. You're done and they say thank you. And if you know anyone else that needs these services, go ahead and send them my way. And they have built a multi-billion-dollar company off of that. There is not one financial advisor that does not have to canvass their neighborhood when they start their firm. And it works really well. And I'm trying to remember the name of the vacuum. I think it's the Kirby, like that $2,000 vacuum. If you ever seen a $2,000 vacuum in a Walmart, you would probably never buy it. And if you look at kind of the nuts and if you look at how some of the vacuums look nowadays, where they look like miniature spaceships, the Kirby doesn't look like that. It looks like a vacuum. So if you're looking at the vacuums, even if you're looking at the Dyson, which is supposed to be like this raving vacuum that everybody is really amped up about, and then you have this Kirby vacuum that's still 3 times that rate. So what would you do? You would probably choose the Dyson vacuum, or you'd probably choose one of the other cheaper options. So what Kirby does is they go and knock on your door. The person comes to your door and they're like, hey, I have this vacuum. It's better than anything you've ever seen. I just want to come in and show you how it works. And then they have you vacuum your room with your current vacuum, and then they re-vacuum it with their vacuum, and they show you the difference. And sometimes it really is that simple. If you have something that you know will benefit someone, then you need to get it in front of them. And if you go the impersonal route, where we're in the social media age where everybody wants to just pay for ads, it ends up being something where everybody misses that handshake, that I know that guy, he lives down the street, or I know that gal, she goes to my congregation, whatever it is. You find that that personal connection really helps drive the value. And so you really just want to be comfortable going out there, talking to people, and being passionate about what you have to share. If you believe what you have will change someone's life for the better, don't you owe it to them to go out and share it with as many people as possible? I like to think that you do. Number 4 is you feel anxiety and discomfort when handling objections. And when you're talking about the fear of uncertainty, it really is very difficult. The idea that you're going to talk to all these random people, that you have no idea how they're going to react to you, that they may think you're the best thing ever, that you're a godsend, or they may think that you're the most sleazy, dishonest person they've ever met, and then everything in between. And so when you're dealing with objections and you're trying to build certainty in an uncertain situation, I think one of the best things that you can do is just write down the objections that you're hearing and then come up with a solution, a response to that objection. And what you'll find is you're going to hear the same objections over and over and over again. And as you build your list out, it's almost like building an FAQ questions that you see on people's websites where they just list it off. And then there's probably a lot of people who make a decision to purchase something after reading the FAQ questions. And so that's just what you're going to do. So instead of you just kind of winging it and you go into the meeting and you're like, okay, whatever happens, happens. If you write down each objection, I'm sure by the time you talk to 10, 20, 30 people, most likely you've heard everything. And the uncertainty is so small. I'm not saying that you won't ever hear something again that caught you off guard, but I'm saying it's going to be very minute. And then when you get really comfortable with what you're doing, you can start preempting them and say, you know what, I've heard this from this customer and this is what I learned to say, or I heard that from that meeting and I want to make sure I share that value with you too. And you'll find that people are like nodding like, yeah, I was going to ask that. Thank you for answering. And you're building that confidence, 1, in yourself, and 2, in your product. And you're going to find that the value that you receive from that will be more than enough to repay. And if you're still a little uncomfortable, one thing I love to do is just go ahead and create a comprehensive plan. And that can be as comprehensive or as basic as you want it to be. And what I mean is you can have it as simple as just having some bullets so that you know the direction that you want to go. That's generally the way that I go. I like feeling like it's something that I'm authentic and passionate about, and it's difficult for me to convey that when I'm just reading word for word. So I generally use bullets. But I also know people who write everything they're going to say down and then they memorize it. I think I read something in a Success magazine that's what Joel Osteen does. He literally writes his entire sermon on like Monday, and then he memorizes it by Wednesday, and then he presents it on like Thursday or Friday. And so if you're a speaker, if you're meeting with people, then if that works for you, then that's what you should do. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's the way I want you to attack it. And that leads us very nicely into number 5, which is if you are looking at what fear looks like in your organization, specifically your sales and outreach, if people are not enjoying themselves, that's a clear sign that there is some fear going on in this organization. And what I mean is when you're talking on the phone, you should smile because it's conveyed through the conversation. When you are meeting with people, you should make sure that you sing your favorite song or look at the picture of your kids or whatever you need to do to put yourself in the right mindset. That's what you need to do before you go in. And as I always tell you guys, whatever you enjoy doing is what I want you to do. The reason that most people fail at their New Year's resolutions is because they want to lose weight, and instead of them saying, I'm going to cut back or eliminate sugars, they say, I'm going to eat only fruits and vegetables. Well, how much fun is that for some people? I mean, if you like it, great, God bless you. But if you don't like it, you're not going to make it more than the first month. People say, well, I want to exercise more. And instead of them saying, okay, I'll do like 1 or 2 days a week, or I'll go on a walk on my lunch break, instead they say, I'm going to work out twice a day. I'm going to work out before work and after work. Well, don't be surprised that you burn out in a month because that's very difficult. One, just on a very practical standpoint, that's a lot of time. But two, your body has to adjust to exercising. You can't just wake up and say I'm going to work out twice a day and not think that your body's going to need like a week to recover after the first day. So you're setting yourself up for failure where you're going to relapse early. If you ease into it, then it'll be very easy for you to maintain it over a long period of time. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed the 5 signs that you're dealing with fear in your organization, and I hope you're able to take these strategies and remove those fears so that you're able to accomplish the goals that your company sets out. If you have any other questions, I invite you to go to talkmindsetchange.com, and that'll redirect you to the Facebook group where you can just ask me any questions you have. And until next time, I'm Dre, your mindset coach and mentor of change, and I want to wish you continued blessings on the journey to become the champion of your life.